Hello, I am Laura Hart, the CEO and founder of RoboFun, and I am here with my friend and colleague, Dr. Mario Eraso. How are you, Mario?
Good, thank you, Laura. Happy to be here with you.
Oh, it's great to have you. It's great to have you. So this is my weekly little heart-to-heart where I interview somebody in somehow connected to raising our children. And Dr. Eraso and I are in the same field of STEM, STEAM, creative uses of technology. And I'm really excited to talk to Mario. In the meantime, before we get started, I just want, for those of you who may not know, these heart-to-hearts happen every week at 12:30 on Thursday, and we talk about important issues connected to STEM and STEAM. I am the CEO and founder of RoboFun, which provides both online and in-person creative after school, in school, homeschool classes for kids. We're in New York City at 102nd and Broadway, and today, being Veterans Day, we have a whole lot of kids in the office learning, and we offer programs for 3 to 13-year-olds, both in our studio, online, and in schools throughout the New York City area. And if you'd like to learn more about our programs, please go to robofun.org, and we would love to help you set something up for your child. And now I'm going to turn to Mario and learn about, Mario has a PhD in curriculum instruction with an emphasis in STEM. And tell us about, how did you end up there? Where did you get that amazing degree? And tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I was in Miami after going to school in Lehigh University in Pennsylvania, where I got a degree in civil engineering, in structures, buildings. And so I was in an engineering company designing, and I just, after a while, found myself not doing it with passion, and knowing that from a very early age, what I was passionate about was mathematics education. So I went to several universities in Miami asking, and in Florida International University, they had a good program, and they were sponsoring Hispanics. I'm from Colombia. And so I got into that, and I was ready to be a math teacher, but they offered me to go into the PhD program, and I accepted. I was happy about it. And that was in 2000, and ever since, I've been in STEM education.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So tell us about the different ways you've been in STEM education.
So it started in a club. I was vice president first, and then president of a student organization. And I would start mixing the E in STEM and my engineering background, activities in math and in 3 dimensions, and I built something. It was a 3-dimensional, like an attic, like a roof that students would get on and under to explore geometry in 3D. It was in mathematics, it's the saddle that has a minimum, and at the same time it has a maximum. And it's made out of 4 pentagons that you put 2 like this and 2 like that.
Right.
And that's what it creates. And so one of the girls in the club called it the Penta Hut.
And this is a physical thing that kids could get into?
Yes, each pentagon is about 6 feet in height, and there's 4 of them. So you crawl under and you get on the saddle.
And what material? Just I'm a very curious person. What material did you use to build this?
Plywood.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and each pentagon needed to have 2 pieces of plywood.
Yep.
And so I needed to connect it with studs.
Yep.
And the pentagons had hinges, so it would collapse for storage.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the idea was to study three-dimensional geometry.
I see. I see. And so that was sort of your inroad into realizing that one way to teach things deeper and better was with physical materials.
Yes, and another one was a spiral stair that like architects do with cardboard and
Yep.
glue.
Yep.
We built a spiral, but the spiral was not circular or cylindrical. It was actually a spiral stair, but it was a spiral, and it was, I think it's called the Archimedean spiral,
Uh-huh.
which in each diagonal it has the square root of 2, the square root of 1, the square root of 2, the square root of 3, the square root of
Right.
4, and it forms a spiral.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how big was that?
That was about I would say 2 feet tall and
Yep.
and about 40 inches.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's great. So that you gradually moved from sort of pure mathematics into teaching about coding and robotics?
Right. So after getting the PhD, I was hired by a foundation that was giving out money for mathematics and science education, and I was a program officer. The recession of 2008 hit them hard. They closed that part of the foundation, and I moved to Texas as an assistant professor in mathematics education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so at that point in time, I, my family, my daughter and I, and my ex decided to come back to Miami, and it was like a sudden change. So I went into a private middle school to teach geometry, because they had a program where the 8th graders that were advanced were actually 2 years advanced, and they were taking the geometry of 10th grade.
Yep.
So
which tells you a lot about what kids can do and that the standards might be a little off. That
right.
8th graders were doing 10th grade curriculum.
Right.
Yep.
And if you treat them like 10th graders, there's a problem, because they are really 8th graders. So, you know, this thing about joyful and deep understanding and how to do it, that's a perfect example, because that course is for 10th graders, and they're developed more because they are older. So the requirement to get hired there was to go to Duke University and pass, because they had a passing evaluation in robotics, which obviously comes with the cost. So for a 2-week training, and came back, and so I had to teach geometry and robotics. Okay. And that's where it started. That's where the coding started to happen.
Okay. Okay. So you now have, congratulations, your own company, which is both a wonderful thing and as a small business owner, I know is something that we think about all the time, and is sometimes hard to have a real life while running a company. So how long have you had your company, and what does your company do now?
So it's been a year and a half. The first 6 months I was, and then the last, it's been 100% me doing running the.
Okay, you're slightly, say that all again. The first 6 months you were what?
So the company started officially a year and a half.
Okay.
So out of those 18 months, first 6, and the later part of it, the other 12 months, I was already outside of the university running the company full time.
Right. Like most entrepreneurs, you were doing it while you were getting it going, and now you're in there full time. Congratulations.
Exactly.
It's a real feat, and in the middle of a pandemic to do this. So kudos to you, Mario, for figuring that out. So
I have feedback and recommendations, guidelines from you, Laura. Thank you, because I met you through our common acquaintance, Irina, and it has helped me to do that during the pandemic. Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy that I could help, because I've been doing this for 23 years, and there's so many things to know that you're not taught. I mean, no one teaches somebody how to be an entrepreneur. And it was really actually joyful to help somebody who's, doing this in a really wonderful way in Florida, and I could help you avoid some of the mistakes that I made. So when we started talking about this, we both really share a constructivist view that teaching is about kids deeply loving to do something and to do it in a joyful way. And we were talking yesterday about how, and I've really noticed this as well in New York City, you're noticing it in Miami, that parents sort of often have and I know this, I have my own kid, like, okay, by 18, did I, check off this that I want him to make sure? Did it check off this? Does he know how to write a good thank you letter? And all of these various things. And what seems to be on that list for people now is, oh my God, my kid has to learn how to code. And they're not going to be ready to graduate from middle school or whatever if they don't have this. And for all the years I've been in this field, first of all, it used to be called programming. Now it's called coding. Coding is cooler and sexier. But we've noticed an almost desperation, like, please give my child this tool. And that there's a bit of a disconnect between that and what we feel like we're doing, which is more sort of a holistic approach to learning. I wonder if you want to speak about that a little bit.
Yes. Coding today, because of the technologies and everything that we have at our disposal and that kids love so much, example, video games, and the community, the social community that they can reach out to their friends and post and share. They love it. So the resources in coding to do that, I think the best is Scratch from MIT.
Yep.
Are completely different to when we learned and to what the parents of these kids learned and what they think programming is.
Right.
First of all, you have blocks that you drag into place and you put them together, and if you put them together in a manner, it may not the way you're thinking.
Right. And sometimes what parents, they look at it and they think, like this is child's play. And it might not be what they think they want their child to be doing. Have you had that experience?
I have had that experience and funny stories about it. So we're teaching online. The zero limit learning services happen sometimes online, one-on-one or in group format. And so we were doing a one-on-one, and the boy, who was a sixth grader at the time, had to connect from his grandmother's house.
Uh-huh.
another generation yet. And so she walks by, oh, you're playing with those games. And he was connected to the class with us. His mother was paying, right? And so they don't, obviously this was, they don't see that's deep learning. They think they're doing video games that are addictive, or
So how do you handle that situation?
You mean when parents are trying to convince them that this is valuable?
Yeah.
One, Laura, because I believe, so maybe in certain places, Mississippi, Alabama,
There's a bit of a delay. But an hour ago in my house in New York City, they were drilling above me, and I thought I might have to cancel this whole thing. So that's life today. We all have freezing internet, so don't even worry about it. Just so my question, and I'll give you some feedback on my side, is, how do you manage to help parents understand that what they're paying for is what they're getting, which is what they want. And that even though it looks like it's fun, there's a lot of deep learning going on.
Yeah, so the first thing that needs to the adult community, that that it will be important in 10 years, and that it is important right now. There's vacant jobs in STEM.
Right. So what you try to do, I'm just going to interpret because you're coming in and out, is that you spend time educating your parents on what they're doing.
Exactly. That's what I want to say. Yes.
Okay. All right.
And then with the students, it's the joyful part.
Right.
Making sure that even though they are not STEM who like STEM, that coding can happen in music, in animation, in art, in geometric patterns, and
right. So you're making the coding, the STEM, the STEAM, so that they see that this is so that A, you're keeping the kids interested because it's something they're motivated to do, and B, you're keeping the parents, you're educating them that, all this fun, actually, there's really deep learning about coding, about programming, about if-then statements, about conditionals, about variables. Would that be characterize it?
Yeah.
That's great.
That term you're using.
Unfortunately, Mario, I think we're going to have to cut this short because I'm getting only maybe 20% of what you're saying.
Should I move to another location?
Yeah, maybe. And while
it's been cloudy in Miami, and maybe that's the reason.
Okay. While Mario is moving, and it does seem like that's better, is one of the things I like to think about. And as a new entrepreneur, you probably have a really different perspective on this than I do, which is what's your favorite part? Every day as an entrepreneur, we wake up and we have to, as somebody put it, it's 10 things come at us on a to-do list that already had 3 or 4 major things, and then you have to prioritize. But in your work with children, what's your favorite part?
Working directly with and working on helping them structure what they can do, where they are in their level of coding. I see through their coding, through code, the source.
Yep.
And through the machine running, like control time, I see it's, and so I start asking them, is this what you want to do? Do you want this to go faster? Do you want to delay here?
Right.
What was your intention? And that's my favorite part.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
a great favorite part. So do you have anything else you'd like to share with the audience? I have one last question, but I think I'm glad that your internet is a little better. Do you have any other questions or information that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, so in the initial coding stages, if the kids are very young and we start with Scratch and the 5 Ps of MIT Passion Play Peer Project, then they quickly need to move to other ways of coding. And so the majority of the people move them to text-based coding like Java or Python.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have found that it's too difficult for them to go to that abstract level. So I have found that going through JavaScript in web development helps them a lot.
That's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm. And so we do Scratch, then we do web development, and then we do Python in Minecraft.
That's a good idea. That's
Because
fantastic.
in Minecraft, you can flip the code and see it in block format.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
And then we do text-based Python.
Okay. That's a cool transition. Very cool.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is, in this somewhat crazy time of life, are you finding anything that you've added to your life that's really great? I mean, there's so many negative things about living through a pandemic. Is there anything that is positive that you've brought into your life more? Like for some people it's meditation, for some people it's cooking. For me, I'm learning Spanish.
Qué bien.
Gracias.
So yeah, I'm glad you asked this, Laura, because the first 3 weeks of the pandemic for me were beautiful. I was sitting at night, writing, designing, doing things that I wanted to do and I hadn't had time to do, and the sunrise and the sunset, and sitting in the balcony with a cup of coffee, and
Like less pressure.
yes.
Yep.
And so I enjoyed that, and having flexibility, running zero limit is the thing that I value the most.
So the flexibility came into your life very quickly with the pandemic, and that's been a fantastic part.
Yes.
So that's great. That's great. All right. Well, I can't thank you enough. Is your website zerolimits.com?
Zerolimitlearning.com.
Okay. I am putting that in the chat for those people. We have an audience. Are there any questions out there before we call it a day? We can wait a minute for that to happen. See if we get any questions. But in the meantime, it's cloudy in Miami.
Yeah, it's been cloudy the last 3 days. Yeah.
It's very beautiful in New York. A little cloudy. The last couple of days have been a beautiful, very warm days. So it's been great. All right. I think we are set for the day. And I so appreciate speaking with you and our collaborative learning about our fields together. So we will be in touch. And thank you for all of you who joined us today.
There's a question.
Oh, wait, we got a question. Yeah. Okay. Is RoboFund similar to Zero Limits? I think that we're very similar, which is why we connected. So Zero Limit, I believe, learning is trying to help kids love to learn creatively in STEM. If I'm not putting words in your mouth, is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay,
Correct.
and that's exactly what we do in New York City. So Mario and I have never met in person, and I may be going to your area, and if that's the case, I will certainly get in touch. And yeah, and it will be fun for those. You know, it's like for us talking shop. So how do you deal with this situation? You know, are you doing, you know, like in Lego Robotics? I know my company is in a situation where one of our main platforms is about to end because Lego has decided to end one system called the NXT brick, and you know, now we're moving to another one. So how do you deal with, you know? So for us, it's a great way to talk shop.
Right.
So, all right, we're gonna end at this point, and I appreciate the question. And yes, they're very similar. And everybody have a great day. We're at robofund.org. And online classes, in-person classes, homeschool classes, vacation day classes, and lots of summer camp classes or like winter camp right around the holiday. So we look forward. If you'd like to join the mailing list, I send out a blog twice a week. I'm a former homeschool parent, so very familiar with a lot of the struggles we've all been through. And I look forward to supporting you, and have a great day. And thank you again, Mario.
Bye.